What's up, guys? My name is Lex Veldhuis, and we're back with another episode of Lex Reflects. Now, we're gonna go back to high-stakes poker, and I'm playing one of the legends of live poker in this hand. It's Andrew Robl. He's one of the most celebrated, one of the most profitable, one of the toughest live regulars. At that stage, he was also still pretty young in his career, but he stood the test of time. And now that all the dust has been settled, he's definitely one of the more feared opponents out in the scene. So we play a huge hand. It's the high-stakes poker. I love high-stakes poker. I grew up in poker watching this show. And I sit around the table with all the legends, and we're going to talk about some of my biggest hands from this show. It's 400, 800. Buy-in is about 200,000. And if you look at it, it's a murderous row of people. Phil Ivey playing craps somewhere. Not even a joke. He was just randomly playing craps.
Always playing Chinese.
How does that make you feel?
And Doyle did it. Doyle did it as a joke the last time. He's like, quick, deal a hand of Chinese.
It's not very nice.
That's funny.
All right. They have Negreanu making it 3K pretty loose. My 3-bet's pretty loose, but then again, Negreanu's going to open pretty wide. It's early in the show. My image hasn't really been settled either. I haven't played with many of these guys in cash games. Robl picks up queens out of position in big blind.
Well, I think we found a hand that Andrew's going to play and probably raise with.
I think it's very important for him to raise here because he's out of position. He's playing against possibly the two loosest players at the table. So he really wants to define our range a little bit. Cut some of the really icky stuff out, exactly the stuff that we have, because it's going to be very hard to play flops. If the flop comes 10-7-6, 10-6-5, whatever, you have no idea where you're at if you don't mow down the field a little bit. He flats. Of course, Negreanu's going to call. He'd be crazy not to. Nobody's going to block his cards.
Looks pretty good so far. Top set.
Yeah, pretty good board, huh? Okay, so past 34K.
Lex, who made it 11,000 before the flop.
I bet pretty big at it, a little over 23,000.
Lex bets 23.8.
I think this is a little bit, now this would be a little bit of a mistake. Back then, people were just betting a lot bigger on boards. I have to say, though, the queen high board's not really good. Like, think about what somebody calls from a small blind with, right? You're going to see, I mean, queens, I guess. I mean, you know, proofs in the pudding. You're going to see some queens, some jacks, some tens, but also some king, queen suited, queen, jack suited, ace, queen off. That sort of stuff. Even jacks, tens, eights aren't necessarily as afraid on this board as they would be on an ace or king high board. So I would have liked to see myself mostly bet on ace or king high, and then once the high card drops down, queen, jack, then you know, you guys know it. Bet a little bit less often, to be really honest. I mean, unless we get to the 8 and the 6, of course. But don't really like, it's a little bit of a Hail Mary, big bet board that, you know, it's still a relatively dry board, but I have to really consider the small blind's range here. You know, Negreanu's range on this board is going to be dust. He's going to be very heavy around like 10-9 suited and that sort of shit. So, yeah. I mean, this is the way people bet back then, though, and it is sort of a dry board, so, you know.
Lex might have an overpair.
I might have.
I would think Andrew would raise here. Looks a little like Marlon Brando.
Yeah, I mean, raising would be...
He just calls.
Pretty ridiculous, to be really honest, Gabe, because, you know, you can't raise with top set on queen 7-3. Right. I'm not going to fold my clubs, you know, it's not like going to, so it doesn't matter.
Daniel drops out, and Lex has nothing.
Give me a little bit of room to implode, you know, or hit something. Like, what if I have king jack suited, turn as a king? Or a jack.
No club to scare Andrew.
All right, so second flush draw,
and now
Andrew checks. At this point, like, this board hits his range a little bit too hard. If he calls a bet that big on the flop, like, all of a sudden his range goes super narrow, and he's a lot stronger. So I check, pretty much plan to give up, and then the ace comes.
Ace. Interesting card. If Andrew's tricky here...
All right, so now Andrew has a decision to make, right? Like, he could lead at it's a little bit small to try and get some of my bluffs to do something. He could also be afraid that I'll check behind the hand like ace-9 suited, because there's been a lot of action. Obviously, ranges are pretty strong at this point. I do think that he has me pegged after checking the turn on having some sort of like 10-9, 8-9, having lots of hands like that. You know, even a hand like pocket sixes, like who the fuck knows, right? And those hands are pretty suited for bluffing on runouts like this. So he's going to make most against my hands. If I want to value bet a hand like ace-king or ace-jack, he's going to make most versus hands like that. Because if he leads the river small, I'm just going to call with ace-king. And I might bet bigger myself. Also, he knows me. We're both young guns coming up in the game. He knows that I'm pretty aggro. So, obviously, ace, I'm the re-raiser pre-flop, is going to be in my wheelhouse. So, I'm going to be betting it a lot.
He can check. Hope that Lex hit the ace, or maybe we'll try and represent an ace.
I do really like the check.
He's tricky.
Robl checks.
Let's see if the trick works.
Yeah, trick works. Well, hello, I'm from Europe, so yeah. I mean, ace is really good for me, right? I get to the river with ace-jack, ace-3, ace-7, ace-king.
Lex bites.
Maybe some ace-queen. It's very possible.
54.
All right, pull out the big guns. 54,000.
Andrew's probably thinking, if Lex has ace-king, is he going to call me if I raise that 85,000?
All right, so now Andrew Robl has a decision to make, right? But honestly, in my opinion, it's a relatively easy decision. He has two hands that he loses to. He loses to king 10 and he loses to aces. Now, I think that aces is one of the best hands to bet on the river with, which I'm sure we'll be continuing with. King 10 is also a good turn bet. I'll almost always have king 10 suited, which means in two cases I'll have a straight draw and a flush draw, which I'm never folding, not even to an all-in. But I also think if I bet the turn with king 10, I'm not going to get raised that often, right? Because look at Robl's hand. If he has queens and he goes all in on the turn, what is he going to get paid by? Jacks, aces, kings? Like, you know, so it's way too few hands that can actually call us all in. So he's going to have to slow play a lot of his hands. I'm going to barrel off. I'm an aggressive player. I'm the pre-flop aggressor. I'm like, oh, hey, I can have aces or kings, so I'm all in on the river, you know? So he's going to check call a lot with his strong hands. Therefore, I can bet more with my king 10 because I won't get shoved off my hand on the turn. So a lot of my aces and king 10 are betting the turn. I can value bet ace-jack here. It's very likely. I have ace-7, ace-3, ace-king, ace-10, like all these kind of hands. And, you know, I can always talk myself into a call because the moment I check the turn and I bet the river, it really seems like I have one pair. If it seems like somebody has one pair, people are very eager to jam into that as a bluff, right?
It'd be pretty unusual if Lex played the hand this way with 3 aces.
So if I'm going to bet ace-king here, I'm definitely going to have to call it sometimes to a check raise.
But he is afraid of king 10.
Like what if Robl has a hand like 7-8 of clubs or pocket 8s, pocket 9s? He's going to have to check raise all in sometimes on this river. 10s would be pretty sick as well. So he's thinking for a long time. They actually edited out quite a bit of this. He thought forever.
I have a set.
He just calls.
You have a set? Yeah. It's probably good.
Yeah, a little bit frustrated because it took so long, but I have to say, looking back on it, like, what a legend, like Andrew Robl. You see, that's the mastermind, and a lot of you guys can learn something from this, so pay attention. Andrew Robl knows that he took a long time calling with a set. So what he does is he makes me be able to save face. He calls saying I have a set, which is almost like some sort of inherent apology for saying like, sorry I took so long, I have a set. So feel free to muck your hand if you were bluffing. It's very redeeming actually, and it's little things like this that make it so clear why Andrew is really fun to play with for people in live cash games. Because he understands that dynamic, right? He's not like, I call, wait, see what I turn into a bluff, bang, show his hand. And of course that you can work that way too, but this is exactly why Andrew gets invited to all the big games, because he knows when to help somebody save face or when to help somebody save from some embarrassment, right? Because some people are really embarrassed showing bluffs. Now, I don't have that problem, but looking back on it, I still appreciate it that he called that way, and it's something that I noticed way later. So I definitely think he should have gone all in, but you know, Andrew is obviously a genius, so he must have had his reasons. And this was not a great start to my high stakes poker adventure. If you like this segment, please like, subscribe. If you have anything to say about poker back in the day, who your favorite players were, what your favorite high stakes poker hands were, make sure you post a comment down below. I can't wait to go over all my other big hands from high stakes poker, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
God, can I see the river? I've never made a royal in my life. Oh,
It still didn't.
no, it's king high straight flush. Best hand I've ever made. What a card.
You're a live player. You play like 300 hands a year.
That's true.